As we wait for everybody, if you feel free to use the chat, if you have any questions, if you like to share where you're from, or if there's specific types of drone solutions you're interested in, I'm happy to work those into my training. But again, just feel free to use the chat. You'll see the chat box at the bottom of the screen. I'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation. You also have the option of raising your hand, and I can also call on you as well for that too. And we'll be starting in a couple minutes. We are recording the session, and it will be available for you. It could be as early as today, if not in the next day or two. And NPS will be getting that up, and we'll make sure you're notified.
Got a pretty good crowd here today, Michael.
Oh yeah, should be a good one. Right now we're at about 30. I think we'll be somewhere, I'm going to guess 50 to 60.
Okay, great.
And Mark, we're working on the seeing if we can get you a logo like you're looking for as well.
Yeah, they're looking for a vector. So we just had somebody, Patricia asked if there's a way she can tie in through speakers. Is there a dial phone in?
Yeah, there should be a phone number, and I will take a look here and see if I can grab one.
You can probably call in Patricia once it gives you the phone number and the ID.
Yep, you have a dial by location. I'm going to put it in the chat. I don't have a microphone or camera on my computer, so it's all right. Well, then, Patricia. We'll be starting in a minute or two, folks. Yes. All right, just 1 or 2 more minutes, just helping to get somebody some ability to hear that's having difficulty hearing through their system.
Silence my phone.
In the meantime, while I wait to get that number, perfect. Just to let you know, we'll be covering grant assistance for your drone needs. If you have any specific products or solutions that you're interested in, you're more than welcome to put them into the chat, and I will make sure that I answer those. All right, so why don't we get started here? Mark, I'm going to let you do all the intros, and then
Okay.
Once you're done, I'll be ready to start.
Sounds good, Michael. Thank you so much. I can't thank everybody enough for taking the time today to be on this webinar. On behalf of the board of directors and our partner supporters of the National Public Safety Drone Donation Program, we want to thank you for your service. Doesn't matter if you're walking the beat or administrative person within public safety, we can't tell you how much we appreciate the service that you provide. Michael's going to have a lot to say with respects to how we can get these tools funded. For those of you who don't know me, I own another company called Airborne Works. It's a company I founded, NPS DDP, and we are drone solutions providers. And if anybody out there has used drones and they'd like to recycle them back into help public safety, we take used drones from anyone, and we also sell new hardware, and we assure best pricing, and we'll donate 5% of our net proceeds back to NPS DDP in your behalf. So I can't tell you how excited I am about having Michael here to explain the grant process. Some people call it the grant game, and I think Michael's got a good finger on the pulse. So Michael, go ahead and please make your presentation.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. And thank you for everyone that's attending today. What I will do is let me share my PowerPoint and we will get started here. Any questions you have, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will be answering them at the end. You can find the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you go over to reactions and you feel more comfortable raising your hand, you just click on reactions. There's an icon that says raise hand. It'll look like this. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have again at the end of the presentation. But let me share my screen here. We can get started. And fire up the presentation. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. So what I call this is the grant funding assistance strategy. This is a class I put together for anybody that has an interest in getting a drone program off the ground, no pun intended. But what we're going to be talking about today is a lot of different strategies and techniques. And by the end of this presentation, you're going to have a good idea on how to play this grant game. So that way you can be successful getting whatever equipment or software or accessories for your drone and get the program off the ground here. So let me first kind of give you some backstory about the grant funding assistance strategy. I launched my company in 2007. So we're halfway through our 14th year of being in the business. And what we did was we saw problems, and specifically, I've been in the industry for almost 20 years, and these are problems I first saw when I was a sales rep, selling tactical gear to Homeland Security, police departments, local government, in essence, sheriff's offices, state patrols, correction facilities. And I designed the grant funding assistance strategy because I saw an issue in the marketplace, and I saw an issue that was end users had a real need for solutions. It didn't matter if it was software, equipment, or training. They had needs, but due to funding issues, they couldn't afford to buy them. And so what I would see on the business side of the industry was companies going out, doing demos, showing product, end users seeing the product, testing and evaluating it, and then basically after the T&E, realizing they loved what they saw, but didn't have any money to buy it. So ultimately, due to budget issues, because in our marketplace, anywhere from 90 to 98% of funding for public safety goes to payroll and gasoline. So there's not a lot of money left over when it comes to equipment needs or training needs or software needs. So the end result is this. The end users I see in the marketplace do not know how or where to find money. And they continue to do their duties and responsibilities without the necessary equipment that's going to do one or more of the following: save time, save money, reduce liability, and save lives. And the purpose of what I do is I help educate the market on how to best play this game. My mission's simple. My mission is to solve the funding problem. It's a big mission, but in simple terms, it's teaching end users how to find funding sources and how to properly apply for them to get funding. And I also teach companies how to build out strategies around their product offering. So that way, when they go in and see the end user, they're able to not only sell and show them the best solutions available, they could show them where the funding is. And I jokingly say, it's also the truth. I've never met anyone that's ever become a public safety officer to do it to write grants for a living. It's come with the job. So I want to try to make this process as simple as possible for you folks. So what we do for end users is this. We teach them how to be able to find, or we also sell lists of federal, private, and state grants. Everything I'm going to teach you today, I've done. So, so that way you can do it, or if there's a need, you can also purchase it. But, it's basically creating a list of grants for your specific state, but not only your state, but for your county, your region, your city. And then being able to identify the funding categories. Is it a federal funded source, a private funded source, or a state funded source? Deadlines, when are these grants going to expire, or are they ongoing where you could apply for the entire year? It didn't matter what day. Descriptions, so you have a better understanding from a 10,000 foot view what the grant is about and if it's something that would fund what you're looking for specifically. Available funding amounts, how much is available in the funding pool? And then links to the website where you can find the grants on the internet. Also where you can find the point of contact that oversees that grant, and as well as where's the link where you can apply for it. And you want to build this database over time because you're going to want to go back to this over and over, because let's face it, your needs are going to change based on what goes on in your community. Right now, you might think you have needs for X, Y, and Z. You might find in a year from now, you also need needs for A, B, and C. I mean, if one thing COVID has taught us is, you have to be flexible. If you would have said to any of us, we're going to shut down the country for over a year due to a pandemic, we all would have said you were crazy. The reality is we just have gone through it. And in some parts of the country, we're seeing an uptick in COVID. I bring that up to you because you have to be flexible. You have to anticipate. And with the grant funding assistance strategy, what I'm going to teach you today is how to best anticipate what could possibly happen so you're prepared. Now for businesses, if there's any businesses on here, what I'm going to teach you today is how to build a strategy around your specific makes and models and teach an end user how to do these 5 things. How to get approvals to pursue a grant, how to locate and identify the specific grants that are available for your solution, locate the point of contact that oversees the grant so you can give that to your end user so they can start building rapport and learn more about how to be best successful on that specific grant, how to build a successful grant justification paper, and how to secure and protect money so it's not taken from one project and moved to another. So let's start off with a foundation. I never know who's going to be on my calls. I've had experienced grant writers and I've had people who have never written a grant before in their life. I always like to start off with the definition of terms. Let's start off with the grant. What is a grant? A grant simply is a sum of money given by an organization, especially a government, for a particular purpose. You have a grantor, and that grantor is the individual in charge of distributing the sum of money for that particular purpose. You have the grantee, which is typically the end user, a person or organization that receives a sum of money for a particular purpose. There's also 3 types of grants. There's federal grants, there's private grants, and a private grant simply is through either a corporation, a nonprofit, or a foundation. And then there's state grants, grants that come specifically from the state you live in. A grant is a 2-step process typically. You fill out an application, which will give you specific city, county, and state information you'd have to know to fill out that form, and then writing a grant narrative, also known as a grant justification paper, also known as a grant narrative justification paper. And what it is it's in essence explain what's going on in your community, the project you're looking to implement, how you're going to launch the project, and how much money it's going to cost for it. Nowadays, due to the internet, you're seeing applications online that weave, I should say, an application and a justification paper together. So you might be filling out your application, answering specific city, county, or state information, And then you might have a question and short answer section that says, what's the problem in your community today that makes you apply for this grant? 500 words or less. You fill that out, then you go to a next one, you answer some more questions. Tell us about the project. 500 words or less. How are you going to get this project off the ground? And so on and so forth. So you're seeing a variety of these applications nowadays. What I'm going to teach you all today is how to play both of them. So that way you could be successful in either format. So why do we even need to focus on grants? You know, grants really became prominent after 9/11. And what I've noticed, because I've been in the industry for almost 20 years, my first day in the industry was September 25th, 2001. And I learned about grants because I was never in public safety before I started in this industry. I was never a cop. I was never a fireman, never was a medic, never was in the military. I was a headhunter. I was helping people find jobs for a living before I got into this industry. And because of that, I couldn't sell on experience. Meaning I couldn't tell someone, hey, you need to buy this gear because I used it. I had no credibility. I had to build credibility by selling features, advantages, and benefits and giving product for testing and evaluation. So that way, the end user would T&E it and tell me what they thought. When I was selling tactical equipment, I covered 26 states, everything east of the Mississippi. So what I would hear in Illinois, I would share with Florida, and what I would hear in Florida, I would share with Virginia, and so on and so forth. I was really big on what I like to call cross-pollination. I would share information in different parts of the country. And then from there, I would ask buying questions. And that was one of the skills I brought to the industry. I was very comfortable asking buying questions. How do you like the product? Does it make sense? Does it solve your problem? Does the price make sense? Great. When do you expect to buy? When I would ask that question, people would say, I don't know. And I don't know confused me because I didn't expect to hear I don't know. I didn't hear I don't know in previous jobs I worked in, because typically if I was in front of somebody, they had money to buy. So I would ask them why they were saying I don't know. And the answer I kept getting was, well, we don't have any money. And I was confused because remember, after 9/11, Department of Homeland Security was formed. There was over $4 billion of funding that was delivered to state and local agencies for training and equipment to get up to speed in case there was a future event. And so I asked them, I said, I keep hearing about all this money and that's being given to you folks from the federal government. And their reply was, well, we don't know how to get that money. And one day I asked a question that put me in front of you today. The question I asked was, if I show you how to find the money, would you buy from me? Everybody said yes. So that's when I started learning about grants. And in 2002 is when I began to learn about them. And by the end of 2005, I increased my sales in my territory by 900%. I went from selling $1 million a year to $9 million a year. All because I focused on what was needed. The end users needed help getting money. I said, okay, I can't sell them gear because I used it, but I can go find money. And that's what I did. So what I'm going to teach you today is what I did for my territory and for my customers. And what I learned first and foremost was that budgets were small. And budgets are getting smaller and smaller. Now with the defunding of the police movement that's been going on in different parts of the country, they're getting slashed even more. A lot of times it's economy issues though, real estate market, taxes, we have inflation on the rise. It's going to put a pinch because businesses are going to have a hard time operating because it's going to be tougher to do business when there's inflation. So the budgets will start contracting even more. I've also learned over the years, elected officials want to say on what goods and services the public safety agencies purchase. 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. You got money, you spent it. Nowadays, you want to spend money on X, Y, or Z, you got to go in front of city council or county board. You have to explain to them what you're looking to do, why you're looking to do it to get those approvals. So what happens is I see more and more life-saving products and services for departments that are not considered a high priority due to other needs. Let's face it, if your agency is going to buy something they can use every day, versus buying something they're going to use for 20 days, maybe 25 days out of a year. They're going to go with the one that you're going to use all the time. You know, drone programs and having drones ideally is something you want to have available to use, but, you know, realistically, you're probably not going to use it every day. You know, and the higher the cost of product is, you know, or service, the harder it is to get approved for purchases. You know, if it's a 4 or 5 figure project, it's a little bit easier to get it approved, let's say, than a 6 or 7 figure project, depending on what you're looking to do. So the end results is this: these products or services or training, they get bumped from the budget each year. You know, when I started in this industry, I would get calls from SWAT commanders. Here's a list of stuff I need, 15 items, 20 items. You get that list, and I'd price it out and I'd send it to them. And I'm thinking I'm going to get 20 items. We're going to sell all this stuff. I follow up with them, or they call me back. Yeah, I got approved for the first 2 or 3. And I'm like, really? I'm saying to myself, the reality is this: everybody has needs at your department. If your drone program has needs, your training division has needs, your patrol has needs, your IT division has needs, your administration has needs, your operations has needs, your special operations has needs, your investigative division has needs, your support services has needs, and the budgets aren't there. So, you know, taking that in consideration with what we've gone through in the last year to year and a half with the pandemic and the George Floyd demonstrations and protests and riots, we got to be prepared now more than ever. So you have to learn how to find money, because you're operating at a disadvantage. And to attain this high level of preparedness, budgets need enhancement through grants. So if you're on the business side, this is going to sound familiar. You know, it's a long purchasing process nowadays. You know, I talk to businesses, and it takes 1 year to 2 years to get deals done. And well, how come? Well, here's your typical process. You get a sales lead if you're a business. May it be a website, a marketing campaign, a cold call, a trade show, an inbound call. You have that initial conversation with the end user. You send them product information. You know, back in the early 2000s, we did a lot of mailing. Now you can PDF. You can send them website links. You can invite them to some type of an internal website if they log in. You do a demo. Nowadays, you could do demos over Zoom, or you do them face-to-face. Formal quotes created, and then what the end user needs to do more often than not is to submit the project to elected officials to get approval to move forward. Then from there, work on the application and the justification paper, submit the grant, you're awarded the funding. That's the long, but that's really a shorter version. You know, there are times I see elected officials voting up to 7 times on a project. Vote to approve moving forward on the project, vote to approve going for the grant, vote for submitting the grant, vote for accepting the award of the grant, vote for taking in the funding, vote for putting the project out to bid, vote to accept the awarded bid, vote to cut the PO. And they don't meet every day. They meet once a month. Right there, it could be anywhere from 5 to 8 months on top of all the other process. So let's dive into the grant funding assistance strategy and those 5 main points and how you could use them to build your own strategy at your agency. The first thing is this: if you are looking to fund a drone project or add to your existing drone project, you got to get clear on who's going to approve this. Is it your leadership at your agency? Do you have to sell this to a captain, a deputy chief, a commander, or the chief or sheriff themselves? Do you have to sell it to city council? Do you have to go in front of a city council and sell them on a project to move forward? Do you have to sell it to a county board or a regional board? You know, if you're a county fire department or a county police department, you're in front of the county board then. A regional board, let's say you're taking a few of your counties and working within a region. Or maybe it's a statewide project you're working on, you have to sell it to state administrators. Now, understand, why are approvals needed? Simply put, taxpayers pay public safety personnel salaries. Elected officials, because of this, want to be involved with the decision. You know, there was a recent article I read this was in Pittsburgh. It was a Pittsburgh Police Department. Special Operations Commander had to go in front of City Council because he wanted to get approval to move forward to get a throwbot, a throwable robot. Looks like a dumbbell, weighs about 5 pounds. You throw it into a structure, you clear room so your entry team on your SWAT team can enter in safely. So the City Council wanted to understand this project better because they were worried that this throwbot was going to be used against demonstrators or protesters. Obviously, they aren't familiar with a throwbot. If you know what a throwbot is, you know it's never used for that. It's specifically used for clearing structures and giving you eyes and ears in places you don't want to first go into because it might not be safe. So once this was explained, the City Council member said, we feel we should have a say on how money is spent and how our city operates. And that's the mindset nowadays. Right or wrong, I'm not picking sides. I'm not picking Democrat or Republican, left or right, conservative or liberal. None of that. I'm a believer you got to understand and appreciate the world you operate in. So understanding that that's going to be the case, you got to get good at selling projects. And the first thing is you got to understand who do you got to sell. So how do you get approvals? The end user must show how a project can be realistically funded. That's the first thing. May it be a federal grant, may it be a private grant or a state grant. You got to make sure that what you want to do is not a wild goose chase, that it's sound and viable, that it makes sense. How do you do this? Show how a project's going to save time. How is having your drone program or enhancing your existing drone program going to save your agency time on a call out? How's it going to save money? A lot of times when you're called out and you need to use a drone program, it's after hours. So you're working on overtime. So the shorter you could be out there, you save money. Reduce liability. A drone program gives you eyes and ears in places that are hard to get to a lot of times. So if there's a way to safely get eyes and ears so you don't have to put yourself in harm's way, or you can get to somebody quicker, it reduces liability and ultimately it saves lives. The end users' lives as well as the citizens of the community. So one way you can do that is leveraging what's called the AEL, which is the Authorized Equipment List. If you're familiar with the AEL, you're at the top of the class because a lot of agencies I talk to are not. So let me explain. The AEL, or the Authorized Equipment List, is a list of approved equipment types allowed under FEMA's Preparedness Grant Program. The intended audience is you folks, public safety, first responders, emergency managers, Homeland Security professionals. That's the audience for the AEL. And the best analogy I can give to you to describe it is this. Think of it as a bunch of file cabinets. So what do I mean? You have 21 file cabinets all in a row. Each file cabinet is an equipment category. PPE, IT, medical, as an example. Then from there, you open up one of these file cabinets. What do you see inside normally? You see hanging files. They might be green, sometimes they're blue, sometimes they're red. Those hanging files are categories within the equipment category. Then from there, what's typically in a hanging file? It's usually a manila folder or a few manila folders. Those are your subcategories. Then inside the manila folder usually is what? It's usually paper. That paper is the individual equipment item. So I'm going to give you an example at the bottom. Here's the first one, 0303-07-SUAS. That is for a small unmanned aircraft system. So if you're looking to get a drone, that is the Authorized Equipment List line item number you need to know. That line item number connects you to specific federal grants. If you're looking to upgrade your drone program, that would be 0303-07-UPGD. That's robots or remotely piloted vehicle upgrades, software, accessories for your drone. Also could include training. So those two items, and if you want to take an image of this screen, feel free to do so. Again, we're recording this, so we'll be supplying this to Mark's team, so it'll be available to you folks. But this specific line item number will connect you to federal grants. So you can put this in front of a city council or county board, and they will understand that you are not on a wild goose chase, that this is a sound and viable project. So let's now take a time and dig into some grants. These are some grants that are available on the federal side that I would recommend you get familiar with and you can research. Now, again, feel free to take a picture of this screen or do a screenshot. So let's talk about it. The American Rescue Plan. Most people are familiar with the ARP. It is to prepare for potentially a future pandemic or disaster, or to be made whole from a previous pandemic or disaster. Now, you have to show how your drone program would help respond to a pandemic. So that's what you got to keep in mind. As long as you can connect those dots, you can apply for ARP money, or you can get ARP money that's been given to your community. There has been $350 billion earmarked through American Rescue Plan, by far the most aggressive funding source ever been offered to state and local agencies. The key is, though, you've got to be able to connect those dots and show how this project will help respond to COVID. All right, if you're a fire department, you have the AFG grant, the Assistance of Firefighters grant. You can get different types of accessories or software or training, or potentially drones as well. You know, and from there, you might find there are some of these grants, just to give you a heads up in advance, that might say no to drones, but they might say yes to accessories. Keep that in mind. You might have to apply for multiple grants. These are sources that are worth diving into. The AFG COVID-19 supplemental. Again, you got to be able to connect those dots to COVID to your drone program. Then you have the Community Development Block Grant Program, or the CDBG. That program is designed for municipalities to help improve, enhance, or develop their communities. If you can help optimize your public safety response, it's a fit for that Community Development Block Grant Program. Community Facilities Direct Loan and Grant Program. Same thing. Again, connecting the dots to show how the drone project you're working on enhances, improves, or develops the community. The way it enhances, improves, or develops the community is by optimizing your capabilities as a public safety agency. Then you have the CARES Act. Again, connecting it to COVID. From there, you have the Homeland Security Grant Program, which is made of 3 specific grants. The State Homeland Security Program, UASI, or the Urban Area Security Initiative, or Operation Stone Garden, which is your border states, and that typically has to do with drug interdiction. So if you can show how your drone program is going to optimize your Homeland Security capabilities or handle drug interdiction, it's a fit for those grants. Port Security Grant Program. So if you have a port or harbor and you want to be able to get a drone program started to keep the facility or your harbor, your port safer, that's a fit as well. So if you border oceans or border a body of water, you know, New York, New Jersey Port Authority is an example. LA's got a port authority. San Diego's got a port authority. Chicago's got a marine unit. Even though it's not against an ocean, it's still against a lake. So you can, if you're connected to one of the Great Lakes, you can also apply for this. Volunteer Fire Assistance Grant Programs. You're a volunteer fire department. You can use funding through that program to get a drone program started or enhance your existing drone capabilities. Private grants. Again, there's 3 types. There's private grants through corporations, nonprofits, or foundations. We're going to touch on all those in the coming slides here. So let's use some examples. Public safety private grants. Firehouse Subs, Public Safety Grant Foundation. They are not going to pay for your drone, They will pay for your accessories and software. So you can apply for those through Firehouse Subs. The Gary Sinise Foundation. People know him as Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump, or the head lead detective on CSI New York. His foundation funds projects for public safety. Georgia Pacific Bucket Brigade, again, for fire agencies. They will fund projects for equipment, software, and training. This is a new one, Mission Barbecue. This is a sandwich shop, a barbecue shop. We have them in Illinois, where I live. They will fund projects as long as they have a store in that community. So if you have a Mission Barbecue, great funding source because there's no competition. You're not competing against other cities and counties. They will fund projects for your agency. Then there's community grants, and I touched on them earlier, community development, enhancement, or improvement. Some examples, Chevron. Chevron has a grant that will fund projects to enhance, develop, or improve a community. Their requirement is they have a gas station in that community. So if there's a gas station there, they're going to fund projects. They feel if they optimize your capabilities of public safety, their stores are safer. City Foundation, which is Citibank, the banking company. If there's a bank in your community, they have a foundation that will fund projects for you. Enterprise Holdings Foundation, that's Enterprise Rental Car. They will do the same. There are many businesses that have community projects where they will fund projects that will fund sound and viable projects that help protect them. So you want to look at any local businesses in your community to see if there's funding. Disaster. May it be a disaster preparedness, response, recovery, or relief. Some examples of these types of grants: Allstate Insurance. Most insurance companies in general will fund projects to enhance, improve public safety's response to a man-made or a natural disaster. Amazon.com has a contribution program that they'll do. They'll fund projects for public safety. Cooper Tire, if you're familiar with Cooper Tires for automobiles, they fund projects for disaster preparedness, response, recovery, relief, as well as the Dow Chemical Company. Again, these are just a sliver of examples. My recommendation is you find out who does business in your community and Google them and Google grants. So what I would do is I would do all state insurance grants, public safety grants, or community grants, or disaster grants. And I would type those in and I would see what Google would tell me. In general, banks, energy companies, insurance companies, manufacturing companies, they all fund projects that either fall under the category of public safety grants, community grants, or disaster grants. There's also public safety foundations. A lot of cities and counties have foundations set up for their public safety agencies. If you don't, you might want to see if it would be wise to get one started, because what businesses will do is they'll donate money to the foundation. The foundation will either give the money to the agency or the foundation will go buy the solutions and give them to the agency. But public safety foundations are a great source. There are some national ones, and then most of them, though, are specifically toward a city or county. Railroads. If you have a railroad that goes through your community, you can apply to railroad companies and get grants. They fund a lot of projects for public safety. They're looked at as a soft target, just like manufacturing companies and energy companies. They're all considered soft targets according to the federal grants. So they will donate money for projects to help keep them safe. Then there's regional community foundations, which is what I've been diving into the last 5 years or so. I'm most excited about these. The reason being is there's a lot of them. There's almost 800 of these regional community foundations nationwide. And they're really based on population. So an example, if you live in San Diego County, there is a San Diego County Community Foundation. And they raise money within the county. Businesses and individuals donate to them. They take that money, they invest it, and they grow the fund. They're very similar to a private equity firm. These community foundations have tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars of funding available. There are at least 4 of them that have over $1 billion in their fund. They will fund projects that enhance, improve, or develop a community. I see them fund projects for law enforcement. I see them fund projects for fire service agencies. I've seen them do it for emergency management and EMS. The biggest challenge I see in the marketplace isn't the amount of funding available. It's just understanding where it's at and how to get it. And if you understand where to look, the odds of you getting money go up. Then there's state grants. These are the most common ones people are familiar with. The Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program. There's one for states, and then there's one for local agencies. The local agency one is based on population and crime. It's a formula grant. The state one is determined by the state. So what happens is the state gets money from the federal government, and then they have their projects. And usually they'll pick a handful. Usually it's 3 to 5. 3 to 5 projects that they will fund. So as you're an agency, you would apply for it and get funding, but it has to go toward that project. So if you're a manufacturer on this call today, or a software provider or a training company, you want to talk to the states. You want to talk to at the state level and find out what has to happen for them to, look at what you do as solving a problem and see if they'd be willing to spend money on solving it by setting up a grant. Now, if you're a local agency, may it be a city or a county, formula for that is population and crime rate. You get a certain percentage. The good news with the Byrne grant or the JAG grant or the Justice Assistance Grant, they're all the same grant, is that the agency can spend it on whatever they want. So it doesn't have to be specifically geared toward drones, so they can spend it at their discretion. It means it's going to be a little more competitive though, because everybody has the same, is going to try to get that money because they all have their needs, but it's definitely one worth targeting. If you're a fire department, there's a rural community fire protection grant program. That is for any rural fire department, 10,000 people or less population. They will fund projects like this for drones. So those are some state ones you want to target. So we've identified how to sell the project, where the funding's at. Let's take a moment now and let's talk a little bit about points of contact. So first thing is we have to understand that every grant has a point of contact that oversees it. It doesn't matter if it's federal, private, or state. They do 3 things. They answer questions about the specific grant process. They review and approve the application and the justification paper. And then they cut a check for the approved grant. So why is the grant point of contact important? First thing is understand it's their responsibility to spend money. This money has been earmarked to be spent. Every grant that's established that has money in it, they want to spend it all. They don't want to keep any of it. They don't want to keep any of it because they get a tax break if they spend it all, number one. And number two, they want to spend it, but their requirement is it's got to be a sound and viable project. If the project is well thought of and it's sound and viable, they'll write a check for it. So they're going to spend the money. They understand the grant they're in charge of, and they understand the grantor, the organization they work for. And because they understand this, their job is to help you, the end user, the grantee, with any and all questions. So realize establishing rapport with them is essential. Having them understand what you're looking to do, why you're looking to do it, and asking them questions and how to be successful at doing it makes all the difference in the world. It's their job to make sure you're successful in getting funding. And the better they understand your world and the better they understand your project, the odds go up that you're going to get it funded. So as I always like to say with rapport, people who are like each other tend to like each other. Get to know them, share with them your project, and then from there, find out what it takes to be successful. Step 4, the components of a successful grant justification paper. So again, what is a grant justification paper? It's an affirmative case that addresses the current problem and showing how your project's going to solve it. Every grant justification paper has 5 things in it. 1, identifying the problem. What's going on in our community? What's currently happening? 2, quantifying it. How big of a problem is it? Is it a big problem because of your population? Is it a big problem because your population size grows during the workday and the work week? Is it a big problem because the number of times the incidents happen? Is it a big problem because of how many square miles your community is? Or the terrain, because it's urban or because it's rural? If it's rural, is it hilly? Is it a lot of forests? Is there a lot of trees? Is it water? Is there a lot of water? Are you off an ocean, off a lake? Do you have streams or rivers or creeks or ponds? What kind of road system do you have? Do you have interstates that go through your community? Do you have state routes, county roads, city roads? What type of vehicles drive on these roads? What are they carrying in those vehicles? Is the community roadways used for trafficking of drugs or humans? Do you have an airport? Is it a regional airport? Is it a national airport? Is it an international airport? Is it a county airport? What kind of businesses do you have? Do you have distribution? Do you have manufacturing? If you have manufacturing, what types of equipment do you have on hand? What types of products or chemicals? What do you store at your distribution center? What are your deliverables? What type of manufacturing do you do? Are you a refinery? Are you a petrochemical company? Are you a medical company that makes drugs? Are you a food processing company that makes food? Do you have a plastics manufacturing, or are you resins, or what do you do at these places, and what type of things do you have on hand that possibly could be considered a soft target? That's quantifying the problem. Then how does the project 3? How does it save time, save money, reduce liability, save lives? That is the language of grants. Grants speak how to save time, how to save money, how to reduce liability, how to save lives. If you don't speak grant, you won't be successful. So understand, whatever your project is, understand as many of those 4 things as possible. 4, a 12-month project implementation. In 12 months, from day 1 to 1 year, how are you going to get the project off the ground? From the date you purchase, to the date you get the delivery, to the date you get the training, to the date you leverage the media, may it be print, video, audio, digital, whatever it is. Letting the media know that you were awarded this money for this project, you got this much money, and this is how it's going to help the community by saving time, money, reducing liability, and saving lives. Then last but not least, the cost of the project, to the dollar amount. How much does this project cost? You can't name, make, and models. So you can't say I'm getting an EOTech night vision camera for my drone, but you can't say you're getting light amplification equipment or night vision equipment for my drone. And then you have to use a specific dollar amount that's found on the quote. Last but not least, securing and protecting the funding. What is your role? Realize this. There are multiple parts of an agency that have projects that need to be funded. And users in charge of these projects are going to do what it takes to get the funding. So you probably have a handful of decision makers on a handful of different divisions of the agency that are going to want to get projects funded to save time, save money, reduce liability, and save lives. So why is money lost? If you've been on the business side of this industry, you've gotten phone calls throughout the years where the end user tells you they lost their money at the last minute. You've also gotten calls where the end user said, I just got X amount of dollars dropped in my lap. I got to spend it by this date and this time. As a business, you want more of the second call, less of the first. As an end user, you want to be able to not lose money to projects, because then you got to start over. And the reason why I see funding's lost typically is this. 1, it's not spent quick enough, because if money's not spent quick enough, it's taken from the organization that was awarded the funding. It goes to the state level, so it never leaves the state, but it could be moved from a city or a county if it expires. I see funding lost because someone else at the agency was more persuasive. If the end user is more persuasive and has a bigger problem, they're going to move that money. Then from there, I see a lot of times the end user didn't have enough leverage with the leadership at the agency to keep the money. You know, and sometimes it's even a matter of we're in a very reactive market. Public safety is reactive. So if something happens and it's a big something, they'll move money from one project to another as long as they can legally do it. The outcome is this, to reduce that chance of happening. So my outcome on this call is anyone that's listening to be better at keeping money, be better at acquiring money, and be good at protecting money. So what do? You build an agency team to secure and protect that money. So, you know, maybe it's a couple of people within the division of your department. You know, maybe it's other departments. So if you're in operations, maybe you want to get training involved, and maybe you want to get administration involved and get them on board on your project, because then they won't take the money from you as much. You want to get the leaders at the department. So you want to get your chief or your deputy chief or your captain or your commander or your lieutenant on board with this project. Take the time to explain what you're looking to do, why you're looking to do it. Ask them for support. Elected officials. If you're going to have to get in front of elected officials, I recommend you get in front of them sooner than later. Invite them out to your agency. Show them the project. Show them the products. Explain to them what you're looking to do. Explain to them why. Help them understand your world and ask them what you need to do to get their support. Don't wait till the city council meeting or the county board meeting or the regional board meeting to win them over. Win them over before, so when you go into those meetings, you're playing in front of the home team. Local businesses. Talk to local businesses about what you're doing. Go visit them. Explain to them what you're looking to do, why you're looking to do it, and the value it's going to add them. And ask them for their support. They'll talk to city council on your behalf as well, or the county board. They also might write you a check. I was working with the Oakland Police Department this past spring, and they raised 80% of the money for their project before even writing a grant. And they did it by talking to businesses in their community, because businesses are looking for write-offs too. If they can save money by writing a check and donating money to your organization to help you save time, save money, reduce liability, save lives, it's a win-win. Community leaders, Chamber of Commerce, pastors, priests, whoever the local leaders of your community are, get them on board. Talk to them. Show them what you're looking to do. Explain why. Ask for their support. They'll talk to city leadership or county leadership as well. Lastly, citizens. We all live in houses or townhomes or condos or apartments, and we have neighbors. Talk to the neighbors. Tell them what you're looking to do. Ask them for your support. They'll talk to city council as well on your behalf. Build a team. If you're playing chess and you have one piece on the board and I have one piece on the board, we have about a 50-50 chance depending on what type of piece we have and who's going to win. If I have two pieces and you have one, my odds double. If I have three, my odds triple. If I have four, they quadruple. Have as many pieces on the board by building a team. And how do you do it? Show how the project saves time, saves money, reduces liability, saves lives. I know I've said that multiple times during this last hour, but that is the language grants speak. If you're a business, you have to get your products or your software, your training to communicate in that manner. If you're an end user, you need to sell the grantor on multiples of those. So one way you can do is justification information. Maybe it's NIMS, National Incident Management System, that says you have to have a drone program, or you have to have this type of equipment to be for your certain type of team. Maybe it's certifications. It could be NIOSH or NFPA or NIJ or ANSI as an example. The more justification information that supports your project, the better odds you have of getting the project funded. So grant assistance, what can we do and what can we not do to help? So if you're a business, you can do these things and there's things you can't do. If you're a business, you can build out a grant outline and template that will help the end user write their justification paper. It's designed to be used as a guide and inspiration only. It's not designed to be copied. You can review what they write, and you can make suggestions on how to increase their success. You can redline it like a legal document. You can review the application and make suggestions to increase success. I always tell end users you want at least 3 sets of eyes looking at your grant project. It could be agency eyes, it could be business partner eyes, it could be local school teachers or local college professors. Team of 3. 3 people read the application, 3 people write the justification paper, and if they all don't agree it's good to go and it's strong enough, then you don't send it until they do. The business could be one of those eyes. If you're a business, what you can't do, you can't write it for them. If you write their justification paper or fill out their application, that is looked at as collusion. The federal government will come after you. You can give them advice. You can give them suggestions. You can cheer them on. You can't write it for them. And the reality is this. What I've learned best is this. When a project is a must, that's usually when the grant is successful. So the agency has to feel this project's a must. So if you're an end user and this project's a should, you might not do much with it, to be honest with you. That's what I've seen over 20 years. If the project's a must, you usually do what it takes to get the funding. So what I'd like to do now is open it up to questions. We have about 6 minutes of questions. I'll stay on after the 6 minutes if you want as well, but I like to answer your questions. But if you think of a question later on, or if you're interested in buying any of our grant information that we sell, we would be happy to work with you. But either way, my phone number is 630-945-3605. My direct line or my mobile is 630-877-3130. If I'm out of my office line is forwarded to my mobile. My email is masimor@dynamicinternational.net. Feel free to take a picture of that. That's masimor@dynamic-international.net. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open this up for some questions. And you can either raise your hand, or if you would like to unmute yourself and ask a question. If you don't have any questions, I appreciate your time. I will stay on to answer them. Mark, you got a question. Let's let you go first.
It's more of a statement. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the information that you've shared here. And it seems every time I watch your presentation, I pick something up new. And for those who, you brought out a really good point that sometimes you need to make the argument as to why there's value in what you're asking for, especially when it comes to drone technology. People see it as invasion of privacy. If any departments out there, anybody needs our help from NPS DDP, we have kind of our finger on the pulse of some great stories of how drones have helped departments, helped save lives, and we can help share these stories directly. I'd be more than happy to meet with your city council or anything like that. And also if you need quotes on hardware or software or training or anything like that, whether it be thermal imaging, LiDAR, software, just give us a call and we'll be sure to try to get you some quotes for that if you're trying to put a justification package together. So I wanted to put that out there.
Excellent. And if anyone else has a question, feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. You can type it in the chat either publicly or privately. If you don't, we really appreciate your time. And if you felt this information was valuable, send Mark or I a little note what you thought of the class. If you think there's things we should cover that we didn't, we're always looking to optimize the class and make it better. So whatever we can do to support you, we'd love to have the opportunity to.
So also, we're going to be doing this monthly, Michael. So if there's another one that you'd like to invite someone to next month, I mean, the tickets for this just went pretty quick. I think we had like 100 tickets and they closed out. So next month we'll be scheduling another one. We'll get that out. Follow us on LinkedIn or on our social media. We'll be posting those dates and times in the near future. Thank you. And if anybody's going to FDIC, we're going to be there. Stop by and see us. We'll be there, educating people about our nonprofit and what we're doing and trying to help save lives with our drone donation program. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had some connection problems while I was listening to this. I'm on the road. I did post a question asking if this would be available by email. The recording.
We recorded it, and I'm going to give it to Mark after it's recorded. And Mark, how do you usually share this?
If anybody wants to get, I'm going to put it in the chat right now. It's info@nps-ddp.org. Just in the subject line, request a copy of the video, and we'll be sure to get you that link. I'm going to put it in right now. info@nps-ddp.org. And you can reach me there. And if you want to set up a meeting to discuss anything, when in our email, when I reply back, there's a scheduling link there for us as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you,
Well, I
Mark.
appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much. All right.
We'll stay on for a few more minutes. If anyone has any other questions, happy to answer them. Our pleasure, Robert. Happy to do that. And Michael, I'm glad you got a lot out of it, and Johnny and Shay as well. Any Louisiana drone grant information? Yes, we do have that. If you have an interest in any of our our grant information, specifically around drones, you could contact me. I'll put my email in the chat. And we do donate a percentage of the proceeds to Mark's nonprofit as well, because we are a huge believer in what Mark is doing.
Thank you, Michael.
And I will be at FDIC as well, so I will definitely make sure we link up there, my friend.
Good. I'll look forward to seeing you. We're right next to Darley booth.
Okay.
Another partner supporter. Yeah.
Nice. Yep. I was planning on seeing Kevin Sofin over there.
Excellent.
So.
Excellent.
Cindy, our pleasure. Happy to share with you the information, and we'll make sure this is available if you want to watch again or come to another class. Sometimes I say some things in a little different manner, and sometimes I say the exact same stuff. But it's always fun to do these. Whatever I can do to give back to you folks.
Hey, Mark and Mike, great topic, great information. So I definitely appreciate it. I know I have several law enforcement agencies here in Indiana that I'm going to pass this on to for that next meeting or training. So I do appreciate your time, and I appreciate Mark, you putting this on. This will be, I think this is huge to get that information out there. So
yeah,
it'll definitely help.
I was surprised how quickly the tickets went. Michael, if you don't know this, Steve's on our board.
Oh, great.
He sits on our board of directors, and we're very happy to have him on, helping us expand this project and get the word out about what we're doing here.
Excellent. Whatever I can do, I plan on doing these. Silly as it sounds, till I have no more breath in me. I mean, the reality is, until the funding problem is solved, I'm going to share what I know.
Yeah, that's good. I'm looking forward to the monthly events because there seems to be a big appetite for this, and just knowing where that money is you've given me some ideas of where to go look for money for our foundation here. So that's been great.
Well, if no one else has any other questions, we're going to shut this down. But like I said, we will make sure it's available recording as well. We thank you for your time and really appreciate the opportunity to serve you folks, and let us know if we can help. And Mark, I'll let you close it out here.
Yeah, thank you again for your service. For those who still remain, we can't thank you enough for your service and dedication within public safety. No matter what your position is, it's of high value, and we appreciate it. Hopefully we can help you in the future to get your drone program off the ground, pun intended. All right. Thank you.
Thanks again, everyone. You take care and be safe.
Bye-bye.